Welcome to Mr. Hutchings History, where the past comes alive. Let's dive into today's story.
Welcome to this deep dive into some inspiring stories of success within the Puerto Rican community in the U.S.
Yeah.
We've got some great research lined up, historical perspectives, and a few captivating personal stories.
Yes.
We're going to unpack how these individuals rose to influential positions in public life, all while facing unique challenges.
What's particularly interesting is how their individual journeys are interwoven with the larger narrative of Puerto Rican migration and the fight for equality in the U.S.
Exactly. And to kick things off, we're going to focus on a figure who embodies this spirit of resilience.
Yeah.
Sonia Sotomayor.
Yeah.
From the Bronx projects all the way to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
Her story is pretty remarkable.
It truly is. And if we delve into the historical context, you'll see her story reflects the experiences of many Puerto Ricans who migrated to the mainland around World War II.
Okay, so paint a picture for us. What was life like for families like Sotomayor's during those early years?
Well, imagine arriving in a new country,
Yeah.
often facing discrimination and limited job opportunities.
Right.
Many Puerto Ricans, including Sotomayor's family, settled
Okay.
in urban areas like the Bronx,
Yeah.
where they faced poverty and overcrowding.
Right.
When Sonia was just 9 years old, her father, sadly, passed away, leaving her mother, a nurse, to raise her and her brother alone.
Wow, that must have been incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Talk about facing adversity head on.
Absolutely.
To rise to the heights she did amidst those circumstances is just incredible.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the strength and determination that characterized many within the Puerto Rican community.
Right.
They relied on tight-knit family networks and community support to navigate these challenges.
It's like they were building a foundation
for
future success, even in the midst of hardship.
Absolutely.
And from what I read, Sonia's mother was a driving force in her life.
Oh, for sure.
Pushing her to excel in school.
Absolutely. Education became a pathway for upward mobility. And by the 1990s, you saw a burgeoning Puerto Rican middle class emerging.
Yeah.
They entered professions like law and medicine, creating a ripple effect of inspiration for younger generations.
Okay.
Sonia's academic achievements are a prime example of this.
Yeah.
Graduating at the top of her class from Princeton.
Wow.
And then going on to edit the prestigious Yale Law Journal.
That's incredible.
It's pretty astounding.
It really is. I mean, you think about the financial constraints she must faced.
Right.
Yet she thrived in these elite academic settings.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder, did those experiences shape her worldview later on?
That's a great question.
Perhaps influencing her legal approach?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
While we can't know for sure,
Sure.
it's likely that her experiences navigating predominantly white institutions gave her a unique understanding of systemic inequalities. But before we get into her judicial career, I think it's worth taking a step back to look at how this wave of migration impacted the Puerto Rican community's political landscape.
Right, because we're not just talking about individual success stories here, but a collective shift in political engagement.
Exactly. In the 1990s, you saw a growing number of Puerto Ricans stepping into leadership roles across the U.S.
Okay.
Raul Villaronga became the mayor of Killeen, Texas, and Antonio Pagan served as a New York City councilman. These are just a few examples of how the community was making its voice heard beyond traditional enclaves.
So how do historians interpret this phenomenon?
Well,
because there are probably many perspectives on how and why this shift occurred.
You have scholars like Juan Gonzalez, whose book Harvest of Empire highlights the resilience of the community.
Okay.
He argues that their success stemmed from a combination of overcoming inequalities and strategically utilizing education and civic engagement.
Right.
Think of it as turning adversity into a driving force for change.
It's fascinating how Gonzalez connects this success to the historical context of U.S. imperialism and its impact on Puerto Rico, which ultimately drove many to seek opportunity on the mainland.
Yeah.
So it's not just about individual ambition, but a response to a larger historical force.
Precisely.
Okay.
And then you have Vicky Ruiz, who focuses on the vital role of community support.
Right.
And those tight-knit family networks, these acted as a safety net and a source of encouragement, nurturing these leaders along the way.
It's like that sense of community created a springboard for their success.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you say, and did any of these historians offer a more critical perspective on this upward mobility?
Yeah.
Because I imagine the picture wasn't entirely rosy.
Of course, Eduardo Bonilla-Silva, for example, cautions us to remember that while these individuals achieved great things, they still had to navigate persistent structural racism.
Right.
He highlights that success doesn't erase the systemic challenges that many within the community continued to face.
So it's about acknowledging both the progress and the persistent barriers that need to be dismantled.
And finally, you have Ramon Grossfogel.
Okay, before you go on, can you briefly unpack what that means for those who might not be familiar?
Sure. A post-colonial perspective examines the lasting impact of colonialism on a society even after it has gained independence. In the case of Puerto Rico, which has a complex relationship with the U.S., this lens helps us understand these achievements as acts of resistance against historical marginalization.
So these leaders weren't just climbing the ladder of success. They were challenging power structures and pushing for greater representation within a system that wasn't always designed to include them. That's a powerful way to frame it. And it brings us back to Sonia Sotomayor, who, within this context, becomes even more of a groundbreaking figure.
Absolutely. Now, if you read her memoir, My Beloved World, you'll find she's very candid about the challenges she faced as a Puerto Rican woman in a predominantly white, male-dominated legal field.
Well, even as she was achieving these incredible milestones, appointed to the U.S. District Court by President George H.W. Bush, then to the U.S. Court of Appeals by President Clinton, those barriers were still very real.
Exactly. And it's interesting to consider how those experiences might have shaped her approach to the law, perhaps even influencing her judicial philosophy.
That's a great point, because we often think of judges as impartial interpreters of the law, but their personal journeys undoubtedly impact their perspective. So when we look at Sotomayor's judicial record later on, it will be fascinating to see how her life experiences might be reflected in her opinions.
Absolutely. And it's precisely that intersection of personal experience and legal interpretation that makes her story so compelling.
Well, before we dive into her time on the Supreme Court, I want to touch on another aspect of her early life that really struck me. Her diagnosis with type 1 diabetes as a child. I mean, talk about resilience to manage a chronic illness on top of everything else. So she was going through, it just adds another layer of complexity.
It does.
To her story.
You're absolutely right. It demonstrates a level of discipline and perseverance that's quite remarkable. And while we can't draw a direct line, it does make you wonder if facing those health challenges early on contributed to her empathy and understanding of those who struggle, particularly those facing health disparities.
It's a reminder that personal struggles can profoundly shape our worldview and our commitment to fighting for others.
Precisely. And this brings us to another crucial aspect of Sonia Sotomayor's story. Her dedication to social justice and equality. But before we jump into that, let's shift our focus to some of the cultural contributions that emerged from the Puerto Rican community during this period. Because while we've been discussing political and legal achievements, their cultural impact on American society is equally significant.
That's a great point. It's like their presence wasn't just felt in courtrooms and government buildings, but also in the music we listened to, the art we saw, and the stories we read.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that these cultural contributions weren't just about entertainment or artistic expression. They were also about shaping perceptions and challenging stereotypes.
So it was a way of reclaiming their narrative and sharing their experiences with a wider audience.
Precisely. And perhaps one of the most notable examples of this cultural fusion is salsa music. Think about its infectious rhythms and energy. It became a global phenomenon, and its roots are firmly planted in the Puerto Rican diaspora.
It's amazing how salsa blends African, Spanish, and indigenous influences. It's a testament to the diverse heritage of the Puerto Rican people. And it became a powerful symbol of their cultural identity.
And this fusion extended beyond music.
Okay.
In the visual arts, you had artists like Raphael Tofino and Antonio Martorell using their work to explore themes of identity, colonialism, and social justice.
So they were using art as a form of visual storytelling.
Exactly.
Expressing the complexities of the Puerto Rican experience.
Exactly. Right. And in literature, authors like Esmeralda Santiago and Judith Ortiz Cofer gave voice to the joys and struggles of Puerto Rican life, both on the island and in the mainland U.S.
Okay.
Their words painted vivid portraits of family community and that search for belonging in a new land.
It's fascinating how these cultural expressions became a bridge between two worlds, helping to foster a deeper understanding of the Puerto Rican experience.
Absolutely. And in doing so, they enriched American culture as a whole, making it more vibrant, diverse, and inclusive.
Right, because true progress encompasses more than just political and economic empowerment. It also includes cultural recognition and appreciation.
Absolutely.
And speaking of progress, I think it's time we circle back to Sonia Sotomayor's incredible journey to the Supreme Court.
Let's dive into that pivotal moment.
Okay.
In her career in 2009, President Obama nominated her to the highest court in the land.
Wow.
Making her the first Hispanic and third woman to hold this prestigious position.
It was a historic moment that signaled a growing recognition of the contributions and perspectives of the Hispanic community in the U.S.
Absolutely. And remember, this wasn't just about symbolic representation. It was about bringing a unique set of experiences and a deep understanding of social justice issues to the court.
Right, because if we go back to those early experiences we talked about, growing up in poverty, witnessing her mother's struggles, navigating predominantly white institutions, it's clear that Sotomayor's personal journey shaped her worldview.
Absolutely.
And her commitment to fighting for equality.
Precisely. And you can see this commitment reflected in her judicial record if you look at some of her key rulings. Particularly those focused on issues like affirmative action and voting rights. You'll find a consistent pattern of advocating for the rights of marginalized groups.
So she wasn't just interpreting the law in a vacuum. She was actively engaging with its impact on people's lives. Particularly those who have been historically excluded or discriminated against.
Exactly. And her dissenting opinion in the Schwett v. Bam case, which involved affirmative action in Michigan, is a prime example of this. Her analysis demonstrated a deep understanding of systemic inequality and the need for policies that address historical disadvantages.
It sounds like she was using her position on the court to not only interpret the law, but also to challenge it. To push for a more just and equitable interpretation.
You could say that her approach to the law often reflects this nuanced understanding of how legal systems can perpetuate or dismantle structures of oppression.
And it's fascinating to consider how her personal experiences with discrimination and bias might have informed those legal interpretations.
Absolutely. Her story is a powerful reminder that our lived experiences shape our perspective. And in Sotomayor's case, those experiences fueled her commitment to social justice.
And it's not just her legal opinions. It's also her presence on the court. Seeing a Puerto Rican woman from humble beginnings rise to such a prominent position, it sends a powerful message of hope and possibility.
It embodies the idea that representation matters. Her journey demonstrates that the American dream, while still elusive for many, is achievable through hard work, perseverance, and a dedication to justice.
And her story serves as a beacon.
It does.
For countless others who aspire to make a difference in the world.
Precisely. It's a reminder that while progress is often incremental, a series of steps forward and sometimes setbacks, it's ultimately a movement toward a more just and equitable society.
And her journey underscores the importance of continuing that fight for equality, because even with these incredible achievements, there are still systemic barriers that need to be addressed.
You're absolutely right. Issues like poverty, discrimination, and lack of access to quality health care continue to plague many Puerto Rican communities.
So while we celebrate these inspiring stories of success, it's crucial to remember that the work is far from over.
Indeed. But the stories we've explored today, particularly Sonia Sotomayor's extraordinary journey, provide a powerful source of inspiration
Yeah.
and a roadmap for continued progress.
They demonstrate what's possible when individuals and communities come together
Yeah.
to challenge injustice and create a more equitable society.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive
Okay.
into these inspiring stories of success within the Puerto Rican community, I think it's important to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
We talked about how education became a pathway for upward mobility
Right.
for many Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
I'm curious to learn more about what fueled that emphasis on education within the community.
That's a great question. It really goes back to the values instilled by parents who had often experienced hardship and limited opportunities themselves.
Right.
They saw education as the key to a better life for their children, a way to break the cycle of poverty and achieve upward mobility.
So it was a generational commitment
Yeah.
to investing in the future.
Exactly.
Right.
And this commitment led to a significant increase in the number of Puerto Ricans pursuing higher education,
Right.
ultimately leading to a surge in professionals across various fields.
It's like they were creating a pipeline of talent, equipping themselves
Precisely.
with the skills and knowledge needed to succeed
Yeah.
in mainstream American society.
Precisely. And this, in turn,
Yeah.
led to greater political engagement and representation.
Okay.
As more Puerto Ricans gained economic and social capital, they began to assert their political rights and demand a seat at the table.
It's like they were saying,
Yeah.
we're here, we're contributing, and we deserve a voice
Right.
in shaping the policies that affect our lives.
Absolutely. And this growing political consciousness played a crucial role in the election of leaders,
Yeah.
like Raul Villaronga and Antonio Pagan, paving the way for even greater representation at all levels of government.
It's a testament to the power of collective action
Yeah.
and the importance of civic engagement in driving social change.
And it's important to note that this progress didn't happen overnight.
Right.
It was the result of decades of struggle,
Yeah.
activism, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a better future.
So it's a story of both triumph
Yeah?
and ongoing challenges.
Right.
Yes, there have been remarkable achievements.
Yeah.
But there are still systemic barriers that need to be addressed.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
But the fact that they achieved so much
Yeah.
in the face of such adversity speaks volumes about their resilience and determination.
And their stories serve as an inspiration to all of us
Absolutely.
to keep pushing for a more just and equitable society.
It is.
And on that note, I think it's time we wrap up. This deep dive into these incredible success stories, I feel like we've just scratched the surface of a much larger conversation.
You're right. There are so many fascinating threads to explore
Yeah.
when it comes to the Puerto Rican experience in the U.S.
For sure. And I think it's important to emphasize that these stories,
Yeah.
as inspiring as they are, represent just a fraction of the community's contributions.
Exactly. There are countless unsung heroes and everyday individuals
Right.
whose stories deserve to be told as well.
Yeah.
Their resilience and determination have shaped the cultural and social fabric of the nation.
It makes me think about that saying.
Yeah.
The American story is a tapestry of many threads,
Right.
and the Puerto Rican thread is woven deeply into that tapestry,
Absolutely.
adding richness, complexity, and vibrancy.
Beautifully put. And it's a reminder that while we may celebrate individual achievements,
Right.
it's the collective spirit, the shared experiences, and the unwavering pursuit of a better future
Yeah.
that truly defines a community's legacy.
So as we conclude this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with this thought. What can we learn
Yeah.
from these stories of resilience, determination, and community empowerment? And how can we apply those lessons
Yeah.
to our own lives, our own communities, and our own pursuit
Right.
of a more just and equitable world?
Those are great questions for all of us to ponder.
Yeah.
I think the key takeaway is that progress is possible, even in the face of adversity, but it requires collective action,
Right.
unwavering hope, and a commitment to lifting each other up.
I couldn't agree more. These stories serve as a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that we all have a role to play in shaping a better future
Right.
for ourselves and generations to come.
And it's a future that embraces diversity,
Yes.
celebrates cultural contributions, and ensures equal opportunities for all.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining me.
It was my pleasure.
On this inspiring deep dive, I hope our listener walks away with a deeper appreciation for the incredible contributions
Yeah.
of the Puerto Rican community and a renewed sense of hope
Absolutely.
for the possibilities that lie ahead.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Mr. Hutchings History. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.